Hey, Jeff, just talking a little bit more about the power play. As far as Phil Ronick getting a shot on net, I think 8 shots. Is that an okay number, or would you like to see him get more pucks on net? Because it seems like Mantha at the other flank seems to be able to be getting his shot on net a lot more than Ronick.
Well, last night we moved Phil and Ronick to the top of the power play, but you wouldn't know that because we never got set up. But he was moved to the top of the power play, so it's a little bit different look when you're up top there. I still think he needs to make sure he has a good shooting mentality. I think Mantha's definitely had a shooting mentality when the pucks come over to him, and we've had too many of them blocked probably, and I think we've relied on the flanker shot too much, to be honest with you. All you got to do is find a way to get the puck around the cage. It doesn't have to necessarily be a hard shot. But in terms of Phil Hronik, I think up top on the power play needs to be a shot threat. And the same goes for Christian Juice when he's up top in the power play. You got to have a shot threat up top for sure, and then you got to funnel pucks to the cage and outnumber them at the cage. It's honestly – it's a real simple formula that we just have to find ways to be better at.
And Phil's still looking for his first goal here. As far as 5-on-5, is he getting enough chances?
No, I wouldn't blame that on Phil. I would say we haven't been a very good entry team. We haven't had much threat at all on our entries, and so we got to do a better job of incorporating our D in our entries. So if they're even numbered entries, 3-on-3s, using delays, finding ways to pull up and hit late guys, I think we got to do a better job of that. I think that'll activate the D. I think, we obviously just haven't scored period. So it's going to reduce your production. And then the other thing I'd say about Phil is he's had lots of D zone starts. He's had lots of time against the other team's best. And it's hard then to produce as much as you want. So, that's where a couple games ago we mixed them in with Christian, and they took more reps on the offensive blue line. And we've tried to do different things like that to try to get him maybe away from just the straight matchups with some of the better opponents and get him into more offensive situations. And we'll continue to try to look to do that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Next question from Ted Colton for Detroit News.
Hey, Jeff, anything new on Helmer? Is he going to be available tomorrow night?
Helmer will not be available tomorrow night. I don't have anything past that, but he will not be available tomorrow night.
Looks like a day-to-day thing or longer or what? Still unknown at this point.
Yeah, I would say right now unknown, and I would call it day-to-day right now, but I really don't know him past that.
I think we kind of mentioned Bobby Ryan here earlier in the week. The goal scoring hasn't been there, but a game like last night, he was really active. He had a couple of good chances. As long as he's doing stuff like that, you can't be too disappointed, I would think. I mean, or where do you think he's at right now in his game?
I think like everybody else in our team, we need him to finish more, but I would be more concerned if he wasn't getting chances, and he's had chances. I think he's playing the right way. I think he's working. I think, he took a penalty there on a back check, but, I thought he had worked hard to get that. So I think he's doing a lot of the right things. And again, he's getting chances. So, concerned when the guys stop getting chances. Now, him, like a lot of guys on our team, they have to produce at a higher rate. I haven't looked at his shot percentage here in a little bit, so we'll look at all those things. But overall, I think he's doing the right stuff.
Brome was involved in that play at the end there, obviously, with lack of a clear. Where is he finding out how difficult the NHL is? Not just that one specific player or anything, but is he a guy that's kind of still learning, you think, what the league's all about now?
Well, I like Matthias. I'll start with that. And he tries to do it right. And, that puck got caught up on the yellow a little bit. When I looked at it again, it got caught up on the yellow a little bit. I'm not sure if it hit snow or what. So, it was a little bit unfortunate. Certainly you got to make a play on that puck. But he's not a careless player at all. He wants to do it right, and he tries to do it right. And the NHL is hard. It's hard to produce offense, and it's hard when you're not big or not super fast. And he's neither one of those things. But I do think he's gotten chances, and I do think with the chances, eventually he will score. My understanding is he started the Swedish Hockey League, a similar type thing where he went a number of games without scoring, then all of a sudden he popped a bunch. So, we're hoping he pops and then he starts to gain that confidence. But I like him. He tries to do the right things, and he plays hard.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Next up, Max Bolden from The Athletic.
Hey, Jeff, did Luke Glendenning practice today, or is he still kind of day-to-day?
Luke Glendenning did practice today. He's still, I would say, day-to-day, though. I don't have a total status for tomorrow.
And then, I know you mentioned DeKaiser was kind of playing on one leg there. Like, could he play if you guys needed him, if you were to go 11-7 or something, or?
Yeah, Danny could play. Yeah, Danny's available to play. So right now it's a coach's decision. But I would put the caveat again that, it's not like we have 100% Danny DeKaiser. He's just, again, recovering from the surgery.
And then similar for Philpott, right? He could go in.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
That was coach's decision. Yep.
Thanks.
Next up, Helene St. James from the Detroit Free Press.
Hi, Jeff. I'm curious, within the confines of being in a rebuild, and I know you talk a lot about internal stats. What do you look for guys like at Larkins and Mantis level, a few years in the league compared to maybe guys like Sedina and Chronic who have less experience? Like, what do you look at to see that they're improving, that they're developing the right way?
I think first off, that always comes, it's an organizational outlook. And so certainly Steve has a say in what are, the expectations are for our players. And they're certainly in line with what mine are. And that's that we continue to try to learn to play the right way. I know that's a kind of a vague term. So what does that mean? That means not being careless with the puck, managing the puck, finding the balance between making plays with the puck, which offensive players have to do, and yet managing it, not turning it over at our blue line, not turning it over at their blue line, not trying to force things that aren't there. And that's a growth aspect, but that would be one area. How we check, how each player checks. Is he continuing to grow defensively to where, they're hard to play against because they're checking well. They're not giving up easy chances. And again, those are areas for growth for both of those two players that you mentioned. How your work ethic and compete is every day. And those are kind of the four areas I would say are the main areas that we got to make sure that we're growing these guys. And there's going to be times where you produce at higher levels and times where you don't produce at higher levels, but that's not going to dictate, our outlook on their growth. Our outlook on their growth is going to be managing the puck, because every good team does, playing good defensively, because every good team does, and working and competing. If you have those four components, you show me a championship team that doesn't, I would say every championship team I've ever seen has those components. They manage the puck, they defend well, they work and compete. And so that's ultimately what the end goal is here. And so with Dylan and Anthony and Philip Zadina and Philip Hronik and any other player we have, we want to make sure that they're learning long-term to play the right way and have those championship components.
And with a guy like Rasmussen as part of it, because you guys do want him at center long-term and still feel better earning that, being a go-to guy at that spot in Grand Rapids. And a guy like Cholowski, are you waiting to see him? We've talked about this. When you see them dominate at the lower level, kind of tells you, okay, maybe we give him a chance at this higher level.
Yeah, correct. They're two different people, so maybe I should handle them separately. But, first off with Ras, organizationally, we feel like if he could become a center that can play against the other team's best, that can shut the other team's best players down, similar to what Jordan Stahl does, who's a heck of a player in this league. So that's a mouthful to ask to become that. If he could become, in that kind of model, that's a huge asset. And he's not there yet in the NHL. And the NHL is not a place to learn. It's a really hard league. Like, you're way better off learning in the American League. And then the other thing, with him and with Dennis and with any young player, like, you can't just come and fit in. Ultimately, you have to show that you're making us better. And it's not good enough to show, well, I can kind of play and help us lose. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for our young players to grow to a level where they come in and they help us win. And that's what the really good players do. So, when he's ready to do that, he'll show that. I use the words, look like you don't belong in the American League. That's what the real prospects that play in the American League do. If you really look throughout the history of the league, most prospects play in the American League. The very elite prospects don't. But the ones that end up being elite that do play in the American League, they stand out. and they look different than other players. They look like they don't belong. So that's what both Rasmussen and Cholowski have to do. And at some point they got to turn potential into reality, and that's a big factor. Like you at some point have to show what you have, and because you stop talking about potential, you start saying, what are you doing for me today? So Dennis knows what he's got to get better at. They both have to be real good at huge impact players in the American League first before we can expect them to really help us win here.
Last thing, just with Giovanni Smith, I mean, have you seen that growth in him? He seems to be playing physical without taking unnecessary penalties and going to the net and finding ways to contribute. That he's kind of gained a foothold.
Yes and no. I thought last game, to be honest, he had some struggles. I think he has the potential to be the things you're talking about, the physicality and being hard around the net. You just got to keep working on his wall play, on his management of the puck. He's got to be a super simple player, efficient, get pucks behind people, give it to to his line mates and go to the net front. That's what's going to make him successful. And, I thought as the game went along last night, as I talked to him today, he's got to be reliable. Yeah. He's got to find ways to be extremely reliable out there. So I think he's still growing too. And he's I think when you're growing, you have some good games and you have some bad games. You have some good games, you have some bad games. And that's generally why you don't want your growth to be in the National Hockey League. But I would put him with Ras and Dennis, that all of them are growing. And I thought Smitty had a real game the other night against Florida. But it's an every night league here, and you gotta keep being able to do it every night. And sometimes you're simply not ready for that. And whether Smitty is or Smitty isn't ready for that is yet to be determined. But he's got growth. He's got to continue to make sure that if he doesn't grow, he won't be the player that we want him to be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last question from Yanni Benson with NHL International.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. So we're like a month into the season, and looking at it from your point of view and compared to your expectations of the season, what has been good, what has been like bad, and how would you rate your performance so far?
Well, I would start by saying, going into the season, I didn't really place expectations one way or the other. I didn't know what we had. We had a whole bunch of new players. We'd been off for 10 months. I've gone into lots of situations where I didn't really have expectations. We're going to just watch and see. I think the biggest way that, we want to judge our team on is one, the individual growth of our players, and two, the growth of our team. I think, we went through a stretch where we were missing 5 guys for COVID, and we lost our way a little bit during that stretch. Outside of that stretch, I think we've played the type of hockey both before we had the 5 guys go out and since the Tampa game, which we got spanked. I think we've played the type of hockey that we have to play as an organization, that any organization has to play to win. And, I think we've checked fairly well. I think we're growing in that area. I think we've competed and played physical. I think we're growing in that area. We have to find ways to score on our chances. I think we're getting enough chances to score. We have to find ways to score on our chances. So, that's where I would say I think we're growing, and that's the what I try to look for and what I am looking for. Yep.
Thanks, everyone. Be back shortly.